Hey, it is Carol, and welcome to today's live stream where I'm going to share with you 30 second stress solution. Now, if you are like me, you don't have, quite honestly, any free time in your day. And so, hopefully, with technology cooperating with us, I have to confess, I am not the most technologically sophisticated person, but I wanted to give this a try. And so I'm so happy to be here sharing with you. What if I told you that it only takes a matter of seconds for us to control stress and anxiety? Now, it might sound too good to be true, but it's not. And let me share with you, before I share these tools with you, how I came up with this. You see, 20 something years ago, I actually had to leave work early 3 weeks in a row with migraines. And I was desperate to not get fired. And especially on the third visit, the doctor said, Carol, I thought you were so stressed out. Now, the embarrassing part was here, I actually taught stress management in the hospital to the patients themselves. And the truth is, I was doing what I had been taught, but it wasn't enough because working in a very high stress environment, it wasn't enough to do my stress management afterwards. And so I developed this method that I want to share with you today. And I call it really self-regulation. So I want to get over to my slides. But one of the things before we do is one of the ways I like to get people to think about stress and anxiety is a bottle of root beer, right? And if I open this, would you want to open it? No, right? Because it's just going to spill out. Well, we are just like bottles of root beer. Life shakes us up, and that pressure builds up inside of us. And the thing is, we can only hold so much before it either explodes, comes out, or stays in, like me with migraines and with sick. Or sometimes people can be a combo where 95% of the time they hold it in, and 5% of the time it sort of spills out, right? And so, with that in mind, I'm going to get over here and try and share with you my slides. Um, Now, let's see how this works. All right, here we go. And I am going to hope that everybody can just see this now. So we're supposed to be seeing this. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to type in the comments or the chat, because if you're here with me live, you actually have the chat. I want you to type in or write down somewhere, what is your daily AQ/SQ? That stands for anxiety quotient or stress quotient. And the scale is 10 to 100. 10 is low, 100 is high. Okay? Now, here's my promise to you. If you follow and use what it is I'm going to share with you today, I promise that you can cut this in half in really a short amount of time. So, really, the way I like to explain it is think of stress and anxiety, because basically they're kissing cousins. It's our brain survival system. Our brain is going 24 hours a day trying to keep us alive. And it is scanning because it likes things familiar. And what happens is when it detects a change or a situation that it may not be familiar with, it sets off a response. And most people know these three responses: fight, flight, or freeze. But what I've discovered in my 30 plus years is that when we use the right tools in the right order, we can actually have freedom from stress and anxiety. And to understand this, you have to realize that all of us have in our brains this alarm center. And this alarm center is kind of like called the amygdala, right? Keeping it simple here. And what happens is our brain then sends signals down to the body so that it isn't just in our head, but stress and anxiety are both a mind and body experience. Now, this is important because when we talk about stress management, it tends to target just one of these areas. And you're going to see why this method works so well. Now, what's really important, research has come out and showed that not all stress is bad. It is increased performance, it can increase our immunity, it can actually increase our brain power, and it can even increase our motivation. But here's the key, it has to be the right amount. And that means that there's the trigger, the response happens, but then there's a recovery. But how many people feel more like this these days, right? And we can do this for a short period of time, but eventually it's going to burn out. And that is what this looks like. That we have a trigger, but the problem is there never is a chance to recover, and then it leads to a breakdown. Now, what's important to understand is the recovery, like I said at the beginning, it can be as short as 5 or 10 seconds long. The other way, besides the root beer bottle, I love to get people thinking about stress and anxiety is imagine you turn your tub on at 7 in the morning and you don't turn it off until 7 o'clock at night. What's going to happen? It's going to overflow. Now, most people say turn off the faucet to keep it from overflowing. The problem is somebody could come along later and do that. And this is important because this is why gets back to why this method I'm going to share with you works so well. Because the brain is the faucet and our body is the tub. And we need to address both of these things, that we need to turn off the faucet, but then we also have to drain the tub. Because when the faucet gets turned on later, you want to have enough room so that you don't overflow. Now, the map I want to share with you all is, I call it the freedom map, all right? And guess what? You follow it, I can guarantee the result could actually be having freedom from stress and anxiety. That doesn't mean it's not going to show up in your life, but it means that it's not going to control you. So the map is simply the word act. And we're going to go through each one of them. A stands for aware, and that is you want to become aware of the changes in situations that might set off your alarm. And if you can, avoid them. So, for example, I know one of my big anxiety triggers is being the thought I'm going to be late for a flight. So I avoid it by planning an extra hour into my departure time. Now, not everything is avoidable, so you can't avoid it. You got to keep following the map to see, which is to check the levels. And this has to do with that scale. Where are you from 10 to 100? Or if you're more like a visual person, are you in the green zone, which is safe? Are you in the yellow orange zone, which is caution? Or are you in the red zone? And here's the key. If you are a 50 to 100, if you're a numbers person, or you're in the yellow or red zone, that means you have to keep going on to T, which is take action. Now, we want to keep the tub from overflowing. In order to do that, we want to use my method, which I call the rapid relief method. And the key here is you could use this anytime, anywhere, in just seconds, and nobody has to know what you do. So there are 2 steps to this method. Step 1, we got to turn off the faucet, right? So we got to do something that addresses the brain and actually will calm the brain so the faucet will turn on. And here are some examples of all things that we can use as our stop tools. And you'll notice every single one on here involves the brain. It's also very passive, no muscles required. But we need to have anytime, anywhere tools, and I call those the quick 3 to stop. So we always have our breath with us. We always can use a positive self-talk, and we can always use some kind of mantra that we just repeat over and over in our head. Mine is the Serenity Prayer, right? Once we do step 1, we got to follow it up immediately with step 2. And step 2 is the body. We have to discharge or drain the energy that was sent to the body. And examples of that, you will see all of these involve the body somehow. But even importantly, they also involve muscles and energy, so that you are actually discharging the energy. And just like the stop, we have to have always, anytime, anywhere tools for release. That is walk, that is talk, and that is what I call the dump and destroy, which I'm going to share with you here in just a little bit. It's important to note that order matters. You have to stop and then release. Or think about it another way. You've got to turn off the faucet in the brain, and then you want to drain the tub. And you can't just go straight to draining the tub because it's not going to work. And the other really important point is, even if we do both of these steps for just 2 seconds, 2 seconds adds up. And so I want to share a couple tools with you right now. The first is a reset breath. So this is a stop tool you can use anytime, anywhere. Now we're going to take a breath. It's going to be a slow breath. What we're going to do is breathe in through the nose for a slow count of 5, and then we're going to breathe out through the mouth for a slow count of 5. And we're going to do 3 breaths right here together. Now, just so you know, in case you got allergies, if you can't breathe through your nose, it's okay to do both breaths through your mouth. The most important point here is to slow it down. So we'll get started in 3, 2, 1, in, 2, 3, 4, 5, out. In, 2, 3, 4, 5, out. 5. In, 2, 3, 4, 5, out. 2. So, how was that for you? Did you notice anything? Now, the key here is, and I want to stop sharing the screen. So, the key here is that when we slow down our lungs and the rate of our breathing, our lungs send a signal to your heart to slow down. And then the heart sends a signal up to your brain to turn off the faucet. So technically, we are hacking our nervous system. Now, research calls this pace breathing. I call it the reset breath because it really resets the faucet in the brain, if that makes sense. And the key here is slowing it down. I have done this standing in front of very, quite honestly, agitated, very sick psychiatric patients. And I can do this and nobody has to know that I'm doing it. So that is a tool that you always want to kind of go to and you want to practice it. So you can practice it when you're going to sleep at night. Because here's the thing about breathing. You don't want to just try it when you need it. That would be like trying out your swimming skills when you're on the Titanic. You want to practice them before you actually need them. All right. So let's go back here. And I'm going to share my screen again. All right. And okay. So let's move this little window out of the way. And so that brings me to tool number 2, which is a release tool. And that is called the dump and destroy. And simply what it is that once you've turned off the faucet, here you want to take a piece of paper, you want to write, okay? You could dump the thoughts, you dump the feelings, but here's the secret. Do not read what you wrote and then destroy it. You see, the key here is that when we write, we are connecting to the part of the brain that controls the faucet, but also stores all the emotion. So we actually are draining the tub because our hand is doing the releasing. Now, the key point here is that you have to use paper. You can't use your phone, you can't use a computer, you can't use an iPad, you can't dictate it. It actually has to be your hand on paper with something that is a writing utensil. The writing utensil can vary. So, in case you don't know what you're feeling, or you're somebody who thinks too much about it, you can grab some markers, you grab some crayons, and then just scribble it out, all right? And key point number 2 is you don't want to read it, because when you read it, it's sort of kind of reloading everything back into the tub. So, key point number 3 is you might need to repeat it because the level might be so high that your brain is just flooded. And lastly, this is the anytime, anywhere. You always use, you have your hand and your finger is the writing utensil. And what you end up doing is just writing on your hand. Now, coming back to me, the whole idea is that when we write, and let me show you this. See, the reason that we have to write is this is your brain. And our hand connects to down here, this emotional brain. This is sort of kind of like the filing. So when we write, it's connecting. And when we write, it's doing this. But when you read it, it does this. Up again. Makes sense? And I have done this tool when I've been standing in front of somebody or sitting in a meeting and I found myself just getting really annoyed or pissed off or quite honestly even anxious. I would just do my breath. Nobody knew I was doing it. And then I would kind of have my hands just sort of kind of like this, right? But then on the inside of my hand, I'm scribbling just like that so that I'm actually releasing it because I can't make the other person shut up, right? And so I don't want to get it up here because then I can't control what comes out of my mouth. And usually that's when we open our mouths and it's good. The other really important part is maybe the level is so high that it's actually affecting your brain, meaning you can't sleep, so your mind is always racing, or maybe you're feeling foggy or something like that. So the whole point of this is, in these 2 steps, if this makes sense, is we want to stop the level when it's rising, but then we want to get it back up. So that this is the green zone, this is the yellow zone, and this is a red zone. And we want to be able to regulate this anytime, anywhere, and nobody has to know that we actually. So coming back, I want want to share a couple more tools with you. All right. So let's move this little baby out of the way. And I actually have created like a little dump slip, right? Because I will just take a piece of paper and I use this every single day. Sometimes I'm writing positive feelings, sometimes negative. That brings me to the third tool I want to share with you that I call mind push-ups. And this is an incredibly powerful tool. In fact, I am going to be getting ready to launch a challenge for moms to join me. It's going to be a 1-minute challenge, but we're going to do 1 minute of mind push-ups. So here's what a mind push-up is. Simply, we're going to breathe in, and as we breathe in, we're going to think. My mind is calm. And then as we exhale, we're going to think my body's relaxed. So in, my mind is calm. Out, my body's relaxed. And we're going to do that right here, right now with you. So I want you to get comfortable if you can. I want you to either close your eyes or look towards the ground. I'm going to guide you halfway through, and then I'm going to stop so that you can continue sort of the pattern in your mind. So get ready. We'll start in 3, 2, 1. In. My mind is calm. Out. My body. In. My mind is calm. Out. My body. In. My mind is calm. Out. How was that? What you all did was basically a 1-minute meditation. Now, the biggest mistake is people think, I gotta do 10 minutes, I gotta do 20 minutes. And I'm here to tell you that 1 minute can make all the difference in the world. I first learned this from my teacher. This is Anne Trime. She was a Buddhist Tibetan American-born nun, and she ran the Princeton Buddhist Meditation Center. And I went there with a girlfriend, maybe about 7 years ago. She knew I'd never meditated, and she said, listen, there are 4,000 kinds of meditation, and the goal is not to make your mind be quiet, because of course I thought I had to make my mind be quiet, which is why I didn't think I could meditate, right? So when she said that, I was like, okay, she said, I'm going to give you my simple instructions. Sit down and shut up. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I can do that. But she's the one who taught me. My mind is calm, my body is relaxed. And so I made a commitment to do it for 1 minute a day. And after 2 weeks, I had my proof it worked. This is a picture of my dog, and she got out one Saturday night at 9 o'clock at night. And I live in the boondocks of New Jersey, the woods. We have bears. We actually have some coyotes. The amazing thing was I didn't freak out. And that's when I was like, oh crap, this whole meditation stuff works. And so I want to encourage you to give it a try for 1 minute. And if you don't have 1 minute, just do it for 15 or 30 seconds, because the key here is something is better than nothing. So let's do a quick review. We talked about what stress and anxiety is our brain's survival system. And we're not going to stop it from working, but we can keep it to the right amount so that we have a period or moments or seconds of recovery. We also want to avoid this because that leads to the breakdown. I introduced you to the freedom map, and A is aware of what those changes in situations are for you. If you can't avoid them, check your levels and then take action. And the action we want to take is this rapid relief method. You want to stop and then you want to release. So I put together a little toolkit for you. What it is it's just some handouts, right, that you can have from this training so that you can put them on your refrigerator, cut them out, put them on the board. And if you want some more tools, that is what I share about in my book, Help for Anxious Moms. And it really is so important to me that my mission is to reach moms across the world. And that's why for every book that's purchased, I'm actually donating one to a homeless shelter, and particularly for moms that are in those shelters to be able to give them the tools and the resources. So, if you like what you learned, please be sure to leave a comment down below. And I hope you'll come back and tell people about this training, because my goal is that I'm going to be doing it at least monthly, just to be able to make sure that you have the tools to be able to live well. And so I want to just say thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next training.